We're about to go live.
Hello, hello. Time to put your pants on, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary folk, or not, because, it is time for So
What?
Now.
The one and only virtual show to get all of your creative juices flowing as our world is slowly but surely falling apart.
That extremely quiet Roxy moron over there is Roxy Shih.
And that dad with a lack of a dad bod over there, hashtag tongue twister, belongs to Anthony Ma.
Okay, so first of all, we'd like to thank all of you guys for tuning into our very first show. We're very, very excited.
Yeah, and to be honest, we weren't sure how this was going to turn out. And we have to thank our incredible producer, Jacqueline Amore, for such a multi-talented, successful, dreamy...
Rox.
What?
You're a little drooling. You're drooling a little bit here. You got to close your mouth. Cole is very, very hot. I get it. So let me just tag in right now and just say that, thank you, Cole. We're just very, very happy to have you here. Just looking at you right now, I'm just looking deep into your eyes and just your luscious locks. I mean,
Anthony, keep it
I'm
together.
sorry. I just got into the same thing you did just now. Oh, he's like God's perfect specimen.
Okay, let's just take 3 deep breaths to control our quarantine hormones, okay? Anyways, we're joined today by the one and only Cole Walliser. He's a content creator, director of commercials, shorts, music videos, you name it. Cole, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. Oh, yeah, I'm good. I thought I was on mute there. Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, he totally just spoke back to us. I'm just so giddy.
So you guys may know Cole from the Glambot videos on Red Carpet and also his music videos that he's done with Katy Perry, Miley Cyrus, and Pink. But that is just the beginning with this guy. So here's a little sneak peek of what he's done. Let's play the reel, guys. Hit it.
Almost alone if it wasn't for the neon. 4 more minutes till the sunrise, but I'm the bait. Damn you, time. 4 more minutes.
Oh my God.
Blind sales great.
That was brilliant.
Oh my God, Lady Gaga. That is incredible. Oh my God.
You got hot, man.
Dude, yeah, you like literally know everybody famous. So everybody that's watching, Cole will be teaching a workshop later in the show for those of you who registered prior to interact with him. And that's when we'll be allowing your questions. But please be patient until then, because I know you're all thirsting to ask him more questions.
That's right. He's ours right now, and then we will give him to you later, okay?
Yeah, ours right now, for sure. And now to introduce the first segment, the totally not possessive, no dad bod daddy, Anthony.
Thank you, you wallflower, you. So our very first segment, this is the first time we're doing it, very excited. So you guys know that we're obviously all in difficult times at the moment and there's bad news around every corner. So we thought it'd be best to start out with just a little bit of positive news with a segment called News That Makes Us Go, Ah. Great bumper. Thank you for that. So Roxy and I will each present a topical feel-good news story to Cole, and Cole now will be the judge of which news story that touches his heart the most and makes him go, ah, the longest.
It's going to be mine. So basically what's going to happen now is that we will each present our stories. Whichever one is better, he will all the longest too. Cole, you got it?
Yeah, I have one question though. Am I on performance in any way?
No. Why would you think that?
Just the story.
now that you've
Exactly.
asked that, I think
No.
no. Okay.
No,
all right,
Anthony,
all
that's
right.
against the rules. It's
I'm an
against
actor.
the
I have an
rules.
edge on this,
No,
man.
I
All
know.
right.
That's why we can't have you doing that. We can't have you doing that. Cole, it's about the heart of the story.
Yeah.
Okay, so Anthony, shall we 剪刀石头布 for it? Yeah.
Yes, let's do
Okay,
it.
we'll see who goes first. Okay,
Okay.
剪
刀
刀石
石头
头
布。
布.
Okay.
I win. Okay, I go first.
There was a lag there.
Da-da-da-da. Jack, pull up mine. Pull up mine. Pull up mine. Inside the new LGBTQ affirming church in New York's Chinatown, Grace Alive Fellowship gives queer youth an alternative to many of the conservative evangelical Chinese churches they grew up in. So during this time in the COVID pandemic, I think a lot of people are feeling very isolated and alone. And when I read this story, it really, really touched me, just because so many Asian Americans in, you know, such religious institutions would often feel like even more outsiders. It's like another layer of feeling like an outsider. And then to hear about this church that like welcomes everybody in like the hustle and bustle of one of the epicenters of the world and the epicenter of COVID right now, gives people space for acceptance and inclusion. So I just felt like this was such a huge step forward in terms of like our community and being able to break those boundaries that separated us once before. So for me, this is very heartwarming, just because I think that it just discusses acceptance on so many levels for our community.
That's a good one.
That is pretty I do agree with you on that, and the idea that they're just being so, especially a church being so inclusive, is like a really cool and an awe-inspiring thing.
Oh my God. I think Cole likes it. I think Cole likes it.
You got it here. Okay.
You're gonna lose, Anthony. You're gonna
lose.
All
right. Let me just see. Okay. Let me just try. All right. So my story is about a New Jersey resident with autism named Eddie Lin. He's this 22-year-old out there that is making balloon art and creating and tapping into his creativity to show a token of appreciation for essential workers out there. So like postal mail workers, grocery store workers, and other, just delivery services. So for example, he's made a grocery store cart for a mom's friend who owns a grocery store out there. Also a girl's dad, who's also a mail carrier. She requested Eddie to make something for them, and he sent over a postal mailman and also a postal car, and which is amazing. It's very in line with what our show is, creativity, and he's tapping into it to really send some positivity out there. So he has a side business called Awesome Balloon Creator, and his business partner is his mother, who by the name of Jenny Lin, and who he calls his balloon whisperer.
That's pretty awe. That's pretty awe. Now I think we need to look at the definition of what awe is really, because I think if I could equate this, if we're talking like greater good, I think Roxy, I think your story has a greater good thing. You know what I mean? Like there's more benefit for society for that type of thing, and that's amazing. And that's great. But we're talking simply on the idea of an awe thing. The story, Anthony, that you said is like, it's so much more personal, and it's like has the cute factor. It's like the little, like, you know, come on, I can do it holding a little like postal man balloon with like a really well-made postal delivery truck. Like that gives me the longer awe, I would say, on that one.
Anthony wins.
Can we just call it a tie? Because like comparing
No.
stories are
balloon
just
characters in his story. If it's an awe thing, that gets the awe. You know?
That is the awe. Now I would agree, Anthony. That's a very, very good one, because mine is more on the macro viewpoint, and yours is very intimate and it's very personal. So great job, Anthony. You win this time.
Really applause for everyone out there that's a part of our stories and contributing. So you guys, you guys are all our heroes. So.
Yeah, thank you to everybody that is helping out in the community during this time. So now to transition to our next segment, we're going to be doing something much more fun and relevant to our star of the show, Mr. Cole, and what we're actually going to be talking about with him. So what now presents social media stalker.
Bumper.
It's fine.
There we go. Nice.
There we go. All right. we've come back for
social
that.
media stalker, Roxy and I have scoured Cole's social media and found 2 random pictures that he'll have to elaborate.
Oh, they're not random. You specifically picked them to get the food, right?
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Random for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Random.
There you go.
Pick the
For
ones where
you.
you thought needed you're gonna have a story. Like purposely, these are quote unquote like the worst / best, right?
No.
Hard.
Actually,
Hard.
I think it's just like what we found interesting about you and that we want to get further context on. Okay, so I'm gonna go first again because I'm older. So I actually found a TikTok video of you, Cole, that I want you to give more insight on. Music.
Cool. Oh, that's awesome.
It's so good. It's so good.
That was pretty
It's
fun.
so good.
Like a dream. That's multiple Coles in one
I
reel.
Wait, tell us about that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess the biggest thing is like I used to dance. That's the secret of that in TikTok, I guess. You know what I mean? So, like I when I first moved to LA, I was a dancer. I used to teach breakdancing, do hip hop choreography. And so it's like it's still in me. You know what I mean? Like I don't really dance anymore unless it's just for fun. But yeah, so that I think was a key factor of the quality of that TikTok in particular. And then the idea I saw, like TikTok is like just basically like recycling ideas in like your own kind of a way, which makes it super easy and fun. And so I was kind of like, okay, I basically just like scroll through the For You page, and like when I find something, I'll save it or I'll save the song or whatever. And there was this one that used that multiple person effect. And he with that song, and he walks and he like swings and then he jumps around and he like gets hit. And so it looks like he's punching himself in the face, basically. I was like, oh, that's a cool, funny thing. And then so I was like trying to think of doing that, but in a different way. Like maybe I'll kick myself or I'll dodge it. I'll throw a punch and I'll dodge it or something like that. I was like trying different things, and like it wasn't really reading, and I didn't want to just like exactly copy his. And so I started just like, I think I was like standing there like thinking about what to do, and I like bobbed my head back and forth and I saw my head go out. I was like, oh, that's interesting when you have like a line of like dancers like Jabberwockies and then their arms are all doing different things. I was like, maybe that could be a thing. So I just started playing around and like figuring out what looked cool. And then I kind of like got it, and I just was like, I just wing it, and I just recorded and I did it. I don't think I don't know if that was my first one, but I definitely didn't do a bunch. I think I kind of was like, okay, I kind of got it, and just like recorded it, and then was like, all right, put it out. That was
Wait,
it.
so what didn't take you a long time? Like I know that some people spend a whole day on their TikTok videos.
Oh, I've definitely spent days on TikToks, but that one in particular, it was just the effect. It just basically is like a time delay on what you do. So if you go your arm out, like one beat later, your arm will go up with that particular song. So it's super easy. You just do a thing, and then it just kind of echoes behind you.
That's so cool. It's like Busby Berkeley or like a Canon effect.
Yeah,
like,
totally, yeah. Digital Canon effect.
I was so impressed when I saw it, and I was like, I would love to dance with myself, but I don't know how I would do that.
It's quarantine, so you can.
Yeah, but anyways, that's just sort of like an example for all of you guys watching, because we're gonna go into, because obviously there's so much that we know about Cole because we had like a pre-show meeting with him and got to learn a little bit about his background, and then now we just learned that he also used to be a dancer. I mean, that was, you know, I think hinted in your biography before, but to hear you actually say that just really shows your whole range of experience as a creator before, you know, really branding yourself as like a director and a content creator. Okay, Anthony, your turn.
Yes. Okay. So it was really difficult to find anything quite embarrassing through your grids. And I went further. I did my social media stalking, man. I went all the way to 2012. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's when I probably joined Instagram, maybe.
There you go. Yeah, I want you to explain and elaborate what #Thompson life even.
Okay, so I like literally don't even remember. I remember parts of what that is, but I don't know. I can explain Thompson life. So if you scrolled down enough, you probably saw a few pictures of some cats down in the back there.
Yeah, I did actually.
So yeah, you're like, what are these cats? So when I had a house in Van Nuys, and I lived with my buddy Hunter, and we just had these stray cats that were like would run around the backyard, right? And so we didn't really think of anything. They just kind of were around. And then one day we saw this one who was like super scrawny that like clearly like needed to eat. And I think he was like kind of hanging around the backyard. And so I think we like bought food, like some like 99-cent cat food or whatever, and like just left it out, and he came and he ate it. And then he was there, like he's in our back porch like every night. So we started feeding him. We started like buying food, and we started feeding him just this one. And we ended up naming him Thompson. That was his name. And he was basically like our pet stray cat. And so we'd hang out. We bought him a little bed. He was just an outside cat. So he'd like sleep by the door kind of a thing. And sometimes he'd like go off for a day or two, and then he'd like show back up. But and basically he just became like our mascot a little bit. Like we were always talking about Thompson. And so I don't really remember, like that photo was at Kitchen 24 in Hollywood. And it was after a night of going out. I think it was late, and we went out with some friends for like an event. Like Hunter was DJing, or there was like some event thing, and a bunch of us went to K24 to get the after school special, the grilled cheese and tomato soup. If you ever partied in Hollywood, and 10 years ago, that was the jam. And I think I just hashtagged it Thompson Life, because I was like all nuzzled in the corner of this thing, and like someone took a picture, and I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. And I'm pretty sure that was my friend Maya Michelle Rue, another half Asian. She was with us at night. I just was like hiding back there, and someone took a picture, and then I hashtagged it Thompson Life. That is the full context of what that is.
Awesome. I loved it. Yeah, I mean, thank you for elaborating on that. Yeah, I was like, he might have been drunk, but there's probably a sweet story.
No, I definitely was drunk, for sure. For sure, yes. I thought that was evident. I didn't think I needed to clarify that part of the story.
No, he was completely sober when he looked like that.
Yeah.
But also, I found another thing that was interesting on your grid. And if our producers can pull it up right now, this is a picture of your grandfather, right?
Yeah.
And just reading that bit of the history in there, I would love to, listen to you elaborate on. He looks amazing.
Yeah. So grandfather Willie Chong grew up in Vancouver, and as it says here, I'm glad this is here because I don't remember the date, but yeah, 1939 he tried to enlist in the Canadian Army. So we're in like World War II, and obviously we need Canada and the world, the Allies need troops. But Chinese were viewed as second-class citizens back then, and it was like segregated, and there was like white restaurants, and Chinese people couldn't go into that area, and they were sort of like confined to Chinatown, and they couldn't vote. They couldn't, they were second-class citizens. And what's crazy is that, him and a bunch of his friends, they wanted to enlist, and Canada said no. They're like, no, which to me is like insane and kind of like rude, you know what I mean? But, so they were like, we want to participate, we want to contribute. Canada said no. So they actually ended up going to Britain and fighting with Britain. So they were in like the British Armed Forces. And of course, like, it's not like Britain was just like, oh, you guys are all equal. Like, I think there was still sort of that racism that was persistent over there, but they still sort of accepted them. But they definitely were like, oh, y'all are like behind enemy line parachuters. So, because also, I think they like dropped into like Myanmar or something like that. But like, because they would look like locals, you know what I mean? And so he was like a paratrooper, a parachute trooper. And he had like a cyanide pill. If they get caught, you're supposed to take the cyanide. Yeah, like full on. And so they, him and a bunch of people fought for the Allies through Britain, but like for Canada. And from my understanding, like after the war was over and they came back, it was a large factor in helping Chinese sort of like gain equal citizenships. And like slowly after that, Chinese people were allowed to vote, and like things started to change. You know what I mean? Like obviously it's been, and even today, a long road to everybody sort of like being equal in society's eyes. But it was a large step back then. And a thing that I'm really proud about in my family, there's actually a lot of Chinese World War II monuments in Vancouver, Chinatown, and my grandfather's on a bunch of them. which is really cool.
That's so fucking rad, man.
Yeah.
That's so rad. I mean, did you manage to have a lot of conversations with him about this? And are you doing anything with this information?
No, so I think it's like typical like Asian grandfather as a kid. They're like scary. You know what I mean? Like he loved all of us and we loved him, and like it's always fun. But he's like the boss of the family, and it's like, and like he has no problem like yelling at the grandkids, right? So it was me, my sister, and then our 3 cousins that were like in Vancouver apart, and he was our grandfather. And so, like what's really interesting is that I think they like signed a thing, or they like, agreed to something like not to talk about the war for 50 years. 50 years? 30? 30. It could have been 50. 30 years, I guess. Let me try to think. It probably was in the 90s, and I guess the war was over in like 44. So maybe it was 50 years. Maybe it was 44 to 94. Because growing up when I was like really little, there was no war stuff and no war talk at all. And like we knew he was in the war, but like you weren't allowed to talk about it. And then all of a sudden, like at one point, I'm assuming now, like in 1994, after 50 years, just all this war stuff started like showing up at the house, and like everybody's talking about all this war stuff. And my mom later told me that like that what I'm saying to you is that he wasn't supposed to talk about it for 50 years, and he honored that. And
Wow.
he just started talking about it like in the 90s when I was like, I guess, like I must have been 10 or something like that. When he started talking about it. And then it was a thing where it was like all over the house, and there was like war memorabilia, and it just started coming out. And I'm just trying to think of like, I don't ever really remember of like hearing war stories from him. Like it wasn't really like we sat around and he told stories, but like I also remember being aware of like kind of what happened, but I just don't have the memory of like sitting down and him like telling us war stories. But I remember being aware of stuff. So I don't really remember exactly how I got that information. I think it was just more through my mom and my aunts rather than him.
Dude, you have a well of interesting, things to dig from in terms of that family history.
Oh yeah. And I've always like, I've always felt like, there's some form of a movie in there, but I haven't quite spent the time to crack it yet.
No worries. Well, thank you, Cole, for sharing that. That was so cool. We're going to actually transition into getting to know Cole more. That's a new jingle that I just made up now for this interview section.
Come on.
More. And we're going to bring it back. So, as we said earlier, we had a pre-show interview with Cole, and he really talks about like being a Canadian coming from Vancouver and coming to the United States and chasing his dream of being a director. Being creative has always been a part of his life journey. And we were asking him about I was asking him about what the magical ingredient to success was. And what I loved what you said, Cole, was that you said that you were no different from anyone else, because it's not really something that people would say to a question like that. And I think in itself, it's a beautiful statement. And can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so I think like I firmly believe that like any success that anybody achieves is not due to their inherent talent or ability. I think that like, let's just talk about like 95%, because I feel like that does happen at sometimes, you know what I mean? But by and far the large amount of people who find success and who are successful, I think they achieve it not from this magical innate ability, but from hard work, perseverance, and sort of like being smart and wise with your decisions and like being a good person. The goal of this is to sort of like make the equation about things that I can affect, not things that I can't affect. Because I can't affect like my innate ability at anything, you know what I mean? My innate creative expression ability or whatever, my innate ability to just do anything. But I can affect like how hard I work, how diligent I am at pursuing what I want to do, how nice I am to people. All these factors, I think, are really at the core of like what makes a person find success. And those are all things that I can work on and improve myself. Because the idea that like, oh, this person just got here because they're just super talented, it's like it destroys your dreams before they even start. You know what I mean? And I think that like we all like to credit it a little bit, like, oh, they're so talented, they're so special because of X, Y, Z. But leave room for anybody else to find themselves and to grow and become the type of person that they want to be. So not only do I believe that, but I've just seen that be the case more often, and even in my own life, you know what I mean? Like, as I had mentioned yesterday when we were chatting, it's just I never was as outgoing or as, say, as personable as I am, especially on camera, like I am now. Like, I was a kid who was very much shy and kind of quiet, but I really appreciated the people that were outgoing and charismatic and fun. And so I always was kind of like, I like how those people like make me feel when I hang out with them. I want to do that for other people. Like, I want to be like someone that gets other people in good moods and like share that thing that they're giving me. Like, I appreciate that about them. So I sort of made it upon myself to be like, just to inch forward to it. I wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to be this outgoing guy. You know what I mean? I was just kind of like, oh, like, let's just talk to one stranger today. Or like, let's just like start a conversation up with like this person today. You know what I mean? And it's always been a thing that you can work on. But the point is, it's a thing that you can work on and you can improve at and you can get better at. So, you know, being outgoing or being creative or whatever, these are things that you can work on. And basically your success is not determined by your innate ability when you're born. It's determined by your work. Even for abstract stuff like outgoingness that we tend to think about as being like innate or like your personality. It's like, you think you can't work on it. Like, no, you can work on it. You can be more personal. You can be more engaging. You can be more whatever you desire to be. You know what I mean? So I like to think of it in those terms.
Preach.
Preach. Welcome to Cole's TED Talk, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. No,
good personality.
I love that. Well, wait, a small, sorry, Anthony, I know you have a question, but something to just get a little bit more insight on. I mean, were there books or people that, or certain mentors that you had? Because it's so hard to feel like you're on this path on your own. You know what I mean? Especially coming from Canada and like you're uprooted, you're in a new place, right? And having to build that, like, how did you get over that fear, or how did you build your tribe?
I think that like the fear thing, I never really, I mean, I just got over
had it.
It's just like, it's scary. Like, moving from Canada to the States is scary. Moving to Vancouver to LA to pursue a dream in filmmaking is scary. And it's always scary. You know what I mean? So I think you just sort of like work at it. And then your fear slowly diminishes over time is the only thing I can say. It's not like I'm just like, oh, I met this person, now I don't have to worry about nothing. You know what I mean? It's not like that at all. It's just sort of like, I met this person, like, life isn't as scary. Okay, now I met this person, now life is a little less scary. You know what I mean? But then as far as mentors, like, I don't know, you know, I feel like there's definitely been a couple figures that have really like taught me a lot of things and have like helped me along my way. But for whatever reason, I don't line it up as like a mentor. I don't know. Like, there's two guys in particular, this guy, Joel Viratel, who I met early on in my career, who produced a bunch of my early stuff with like Pink and Katy Perry, and taught me a lot about editing efficiently, and like just really like shared a lot of his knowledge. And so I guess he would sort of be like a mentor role. This other guy, Baz Halpin, who directed Katy Perry's tours and Pink's tours, is a mentor type figure to me for sure. And they're just like really smart, successful, bright gentlemen that are always willing to share knowledge and even, fortunately for me, some opportunities. So I guess you would call them mentors, but I don't know. They would fall in that category, but for some reason, like, the word mentor doesn't really stick with me and them. I don't know. So whatever that means. Maybe it's just my I don't know.
Sick. You absorb and you apply what you want to see in yourself.
Yeah. But I just think in like the traditional term of like someone being a mentor, like through a program or a school thing, or someone who's like really like there with you through the thick and thin. It's just like, I don't really feel like I've had that, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like those two guys were like helpful, and then it's like, hey, go figure it out, you know what I mean? Which is a thing that I liked, you know what I mean? So they were there to provide insight and information, but I still sort of felt on my own, and that's for better or for worse, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's like good to feel on your own, because then it's like, wow, it's up to you to like figure it out. Like, having that pressure is not a bad thing. It could be stressful, you know what I mean? But it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I think that there's far more hindrance by like being protected by others, so you don't really experience the reality of like what your life is like when you just have yourself to depend on. You know what I mean? And that was both the scary thing about moving to LA, like I had nobody out here, but also the thing that like lit the fire under my ass to make sure that it would keep going.
Beautiful.
Awesome. It sounds like, you know, although you won't classify them as mentors, but you've had great moments with these, say, like teachers in your life, right?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I would say your grandfather was a great teacher in your life as well,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he taught me a lot about what it means to just be a good person, be a man, and like, you know, just how to honor things, you know, like that had a huge effect on my approach to life, for sure.
Yeah, because we touched upon it during our pre-show talk, and yeah, I wanted to ask, like, I loved how hearing about your story during your childhood of growing up as half Asian and half white in Vancouver, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers feel the same way and experienced something similar. So yeah, I would love to hear that story again.
Yeah. So basically, like, I'm Eurasian. I'm half Chinese, half white. And it was interesting because as I grew up in Vancouver, there was a huge shift. Like Vancouver actually, British Columbia has always been very Asian. I think even in the 40s and 50s, the population of British Columbia was like half Asian. A lot in part due to the fact that I believe Canada like brought over a bunch of Asian laborers to work on the railroad. They started in the east, they built it all the way to the west, and then at the end they're just like, yeah, we're not sending you home. You just live here now. So it's sort of like they kind of, I mean, for whatever that is, but that is one of the reasons why a lot of Asian people ended up in Vancouver. But like when I was growing up in elementary school, there was almost no other Asians in the entire school, like not even in my class, like in the school, there was like one or two other families. And so I really didn't think I was Asian. You know what I mean? Like growing up, it's really like thinking about it now, is like, I didn't really realize I was Asian because at school, I would just see a bunch of white people and like, I wouldn't really be aware of like what I look like, you know what I mean? And then it wasn't until like, I started meeting more Asian people in like in high school and in university, as the Asian immigration population increased in Vancouver, you just sort of like make these more connections. But what's interesting is that like, I never really felt a part of either group. Like save for when I was really younger and I literally didn't realize I was Asian. Like I felt a part of like the white people because I was just like in and amongst the mix, right? But once I was sort of aware, I was like, oh wait, I'm half Asian and half white. I'm not really Asian. I'm like too white for my Asian friends, too Asian for my white friends. You know, it's like that whole thing of like not really fitting in. And there was a number of years that it caused me not strife, but like I just felt this I didn't belong. You know what I mean? And it was hard for me, like in that age, like I don't know, 13 to 16, 17.
It's hard years, yeah.
Trying to like discover your identity, like really like not feeling a part of either group. The other thing that was really funny too is that like I was a little taller than all of my Asian friends and then a little shorter than all of my white friends. And this was very clear always. Like when I hang out with my white friends, I'm the shortest by far, you know? And when I hang out with my Asian friends, I'm like the tallest. I mean, always. I really landed in that middle section that made it very visually evident that like I'm not quite either one. But you know, as I sort of matured, and I think maybe as I got in my late teens, maybe even like early 20s, in university, I kind of remember having the thought of like, no, like, wait a second, like the way I've been viewing this is wrong. How I'm like not really a part of the white group, not really a part of the Asian group. I'm like, I'm actually in both. Like this is better. You know what I mean? Like I'm actually in the white group and I'm actually in the Asian group. And yes, there's another part of me, but like I can't deny the fact that I'm half Asian. I can't deny the fact that I'm half white. So it's like I'm legitimately in both groups. And I started to view it as a positive, that I had these two cultures and these two groups of friends and these two worlds in a sense that I could like pull information and insight and build relationships in. And it was, I ended up viewing it as a benefit, and I still do. So it took a while. It took a little bit of a maturity to sort of come to that realization, but it was a thing that I hit as a young adult, I'd say.
And it's kind of crazy because, like, looking at you, I wouldn't think half Chinese, half white. Like, you are so ethnically ambiguous.
Yeah.
And it's like, no matter what, someone will see something of themselves in you because they will think that you're representing them, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the hair is like, it throws people off. And I don't really know. My sister had curly hair when she was younger too. And my hair was like straight. My hair's weird because it was straight when I was a baby. I mean, like up to sort of grade 3, super straight. Like grade 2, like straight hair. Grade 3, it started to get like a little wavy and like just like but not even like you think like, oh, did it get curly during puberty? And it was like before. It was just in this weird time, like years before puberty, it just started going curly. Like in this time where like you don't normally change. But my hair started going wavy and curly in like the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and by the 6th grade, it was like super curly. And I didn't hit puberty till like I was older. I was like grade 9, grade 10. So I was just like randomly started getting curly hair. like
wait, so like the more you evolve, the more your powers grow and the more your hair grows.
That's exactly. That is.
Yes. Thanks, Rox.
Yeah. So, but the hair throws people off when they look at me. You know what I mean? I think they understand that I'm mixed, but people speak Spanish to me all the time. And, like I think people think I'm African American a lot, or at least part. A lot of dudes, like a lot of black dudes, give me nods randomly on the street. Like, you know, I'm like, yeah, what's up, dude? So I think that I come off in a variety of different ways, which is cool and fine. Like I like the idea. It helps build my empathy where I'm like with everybody. I'm like, yeah, I'm a part of you too. You know what I mean? So it's cool.
Fuck yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
Well, Cole, you know, the point of our whole show is to talk about how to create artistry during times of isolation for our emerging artists during this time. And you are the perfect example of that. Like, I started following you once we booked you for the show, and I am just in awe of how much you're constantly outputting in so many different forms. And, you know, a lot of people are feeling stuck, uninspired, and alone. How did you deal with that when this first started? And has this been a benefit or a hindrance to you at this time?
I refrain from sort of labeling it like, oh, this is a good time or a bad time. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like to look at it that way. And to be completely frank, like there's been moments where it's been tough and hard. And I'm like, I've talked about this on social a bunch where I'm like laying on the living room floor, like staring at the ceiling going like, what is the point? Like, oh, I should post an Instagram photo. Like, why? You know what I mean? Like, what is the point of any of this? You know what I mean? So there's definitely been moments of despair in this entire thing, but there's also been like some silver linings for me, you know, and I've been able to figure out where the benefits are of staying at home so much, you know, and it took me a couple weeks to like figure out this thing and figure out a workflow and a routine that works for me, that keeps me feeling like mentally sane, but also like keeps me productive. And I think that like a lot of my happiness comes from like doing things and being productive. And I don't necessarily like mean making content, but just like creating anything. Like just like, I mean, I keep using this example a bunch. Like I organized my pantry during quarantine, and it was just like a thing that like I just have been putting off for like months, maybe a year. And even like doing something like that, like, okay, like taking the time to like go do that, it just like inspires me in like my space in my house and like makes me happy, because it was like a disaster and a mess. I'm like, oh, now it's all nice, my pantry. Like, what a great thing. But yeah, so I think that, I mean, I've definitely, you know, like found some benefits in insofar as like the time and how to use it effectively. But yeah, I don't know. Like I try to make stuff, but it's like I try also not to be like pressured by it of like, oh, I have to like put out this or that. Like, you know, like I'm not pressured out to put out a Glambot behind the scenes every 3 days or like a YouTube video every week. Like I'm trying to do it, and there definitely becomes a time where I'm like, oh, I haven't done one in a while, I should do one. But I think not adhering to that strict schedule, especially in this time, is like a good thing for my own sanity, because I think it would just make me, I'm aware that I can make myself too stressed by putting too much pressure on. So I try not to put too much pressure on, but I also like, I know that deep down I like being productive and I like making things. So I'm trusting that will ride me through this time to still be somewhat productive and not lay on the floor every day, you know?
And it's okay to lay on the floor for quite some time.
No, it's okay. Like I definitely went through a week where I was like, oh, this whole week I'm laying on the floor. And like, I had things to do, and I was like, even I like had like glam bots. I was like, oh, you should cut this one, you should cut that one. And then I like would get up off the floor and sit down on the computer and be like, no, man, like I can't even, like looking at this is just like causing me stress. And I was just like, I just don't, I really like, I felt like the core of my being was like, you don't want to do this right now. And I was like, okay. And I didn't, you know what I mean? So, and I just sort of like trusted that eventually I would want to do it again. And sure enough, like there was a day where I woke up and I was like, all right, like let's actually do some stuff today, you know? But there was, you know, like a 4 or 5 days, like a good solid work week where I was like, nah, I'm not doing that.
I'm sure, man. Yeah.
And you gotta just ride it out. I think it's like, it's always, it's so, you have to find that personal internal balance of like when to put the pressure on you and when to ease up. You know what I mean? Like you have to put pressure on, you have to push yourself. You have to like break down those boundaries and push through those doors. And like, if you want to find success, especially in like a creative field, like you have to push yourself. But you absolutely have to know when to show yourself grace and know when to cut yourself some slack, know when to give yourself a break. Both are equally important to your success. It's not like, oh, push yourself 80% of the time and then like, okay, ease up on 20% of the time. You know what I mean? Like it's not about that, and there's no magic number, but the thing that is important is knowing, like listening to yourself on like when you feel like you should push and when you feel like you should be like, okay, it's okay, like chill and don't feel guilty about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like you're going to dive into a lot more of that as we go into our workshop too. So yeah. you're going to teach us a lot more. No, this is great. Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about this quarantine. You've given some great, you talked about some great stuff about what you think may happen after this lets up. So yeah, I mean, where do you think our future lies in terms of, you know, the entertainment industry or even just the world?
Yeah, you know, it's really, it literally changes by the day. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think that nobody really knows. And my opinion is different from when we talked 2 days ago. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's different from when I thought about it a week before that. And I'm sure next week it'll be different again. So it's like, I think the only thing we can really count on is that we've no idea. Like we really have no idea how long it's going to take, what life is going to be like, how things are going to be different, what's going to be easy, what we're going to struggle at. You know, but as we go forward, like, it's just like the thing that changed is that, you know, some places are starting to open up and they're easing restrictions, but then it's like all of a sudden, like all these people like in the White House tested positive, like Pence's aide and like a bunch of people that serve Trump food are all positive now. And you're kind of like, okay, like these guys were like pushing to open the country and now all these people around them are like positive. You're like, that's not a good sign for like what they were trying to do. And so it just makes us go like, well, maybe we need to be chilling more. You know what I mean? So, you know, I don't know. Like I thought we were kind of like a little on track. I'm like, all right, things are starting opening and like we're kind of, it seems like some cases are kind of like we're flattening the curve a little bit and maybe we're inching forward to like opening. But now after seeing that, I'm kind of like, oh, maybe not. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe I fooled myself in thinking of like, oh, like we're gonna sort of like go back to work as like cases go down, but it might be they both might go up. You know what I mean? So it's like again, like who knows? Specifically the entertainment industry. Well, the answer also is who knows. But I was talking about this with my buddy on my live. I drink coffee on Instagram Live and Facebook Live every Friday morning, and we just sort of have a talk about how the week was and like talk about whatever. We have coffee, and sometimes I add people and we have coffee together. It's a great fun that I do every Friday morning. And so I was talking with my buddy. We were talking about going to movies and like the movie going experience, and how prior to the pandemic, like movie theaters were already struggling. You know what I mean? Like the business was not booming for movie theaters. And we were just talking about how much we love going to movie theaters, but like, are you really gonna want to go to a packed movie theater like after this? You know, like the incentive only goes down. You know what I mean? Like, and so like we're so used to watching movies at home, and like we've really adapted this entire digital content world. You know what I mean? And like, we all seem to be fine with it. We were already not really liking to go to movies anyways as a society. You know, people were just staying home more, which is I think is a shame. But you know, so it's really a question. And then I guess there was some issue with like AMC and the Troll movie. I'm realizing this. I didn't Google. I wasn't aware of it at the time, and I didn't Google it after, so I'm still not aware. But there was some issue. They're like, oh, what's the issue? You know, like, what do you think? How's this going to play out? But I think that like movie theaters are going to be like a little bit in trouble, which is a shame because I love going to the theater. I love not being able to pick up my phone. I love laughing with other people. So, you know, if movie theaters sort of take a bigger hit than they already were, it's scary because they were kind of on the brink, you know. So, well, again, I don't know when it's gonna. We'll see what happens, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I guess that's really from what it is. We just don't know, y'all. We just don't know, and we just gotta be okay with it
like
because
in
it's
3
just what it
days,
is.
we're all gonna think something different. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So thank you so much, Cole, for your insight and sharing all of that. We do have something special for you, Cole. It's a little surprise. Hit it.
Oh, hey, look at that.
Music. It's supposed to have Glambot music with it.
It's a Stay Clean Glambot vibe.
Oh, the video's going a lot longer.
You like the style of it? I love it. And here's mine.
Sans has that face.
There, yeah, there's music in it. We'll just,
how's our technique?
Yeah, we'll just
Cole?
pretend that was it. That was there.
Pretty good, I must say. You know, you had the hair flip good. You know,
it took me 20 fucking takes to get that right because I'm like, how does he do it with his hair? I need to emulate that. And then Anthony, thank you. Thank you.
But now you know how to do it. But now you've done it 20 times. You're like, oh, I know how to do a hair flip. It's just like once you know how to do it, you're like, it's like riding a bike. You can do a hair flip.
Oh, why? Thank you, Cole. All right, kids, we'll be right back in a few after a word from our sponsors.
Yes, so this week's sponsor is Quarantine Video Mate. Feeling lonely? Well, you're not the only one. Find your soulmate through the magic of video. Mate, hit it!
Hello? My name is Barry. Coming onto this program today. So she aggressively asked me to put on my best fun shirt. So this is it. As you can see, there is an assortment of diverse coconuts on my chest.
Hi, my name is Marley Indigo. In my previous life, before this iteration of myself, of my soul transformation, I was Sharon Kim. But let's not talk about her right now. And I am looking for my twin flame during quarantine because all of this self-isolation has really allowed me to meditate and really bring in my vibration to call in my other half. And so I feel...
I guess my perfect date would possibly be long walks in my apartment from one corner of the kitchen to another corner of my living room while conversating about the history of agriculture from the 1800s to modern day. Are you looking for me?
Well, any date would be me going in dreams and astral projecting into your mind at night. And maybe there we could be together. Because in quarantine, we're all alone.
Sexy is a very foreign word to me. I don't understand it.
I find sexy is in a man is a penis because I love everything else. That's what defines a man is a penis, right? And then like for a woman, it would be a vagina. But I just love everything. I find everything sexy, and I hope that you find everything sexy too. If you know what I mean. Oh God. Oh God. Huh. I'm winking. I'm winking at you.
Oh, that word again. Well, if you mean by sexy, meaning fun fact, I can tell you a fun fact about myself. When I get excited, especially when I listen to operatic music, the webbings in between my toes begin to expand at an enormous rate. My mother called it duck feet.
Are you looking for me? So what's sexy about me? My soul, my spirit. Everything else just doesn't really matter.
I guess I could relate closest to a hamster because they are known to bite off their hands when they get nervous. I'm known to bite my nails. So there's some kind of similarity there.
This is a portrait of my father. In my past life, I was a lion in a past life, a lioness, and this was my father. I connected very deeply with him. So I think in essence, my spirit is still of a lion.
And we are back. Are we back? Are we back? Okay, sick. Can we all hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, I'm just gonna assume that you guys can hear me. Make sure to check Quarantine Video Mate for all your remote dating needs. Remember to incorporate discount code SWN for 50% off your first month with membership, which is $99.99. So 50% off is 50% off, whatever that is. So good luck out there, guys. Yeah.
It sort of sucks that those were the only two options that, oh well.
Yeah.
People to sign up with a coupon code and they'll get more people in there,
There you go. Right.
Just like that
So-
shirt. I was thinking before you guys talked about the shirt so much, I was like, oh, that's a cool shirt. I like them coconuts.
Right. So now the moment that most of our viewers have been waiting for. It is now workshop time.
Workshop time. Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on 1 second. Oh, never mind.
Title bumper.
So real
Awesome.
quick, because we did run a little bit longer in our interview section, Cole, I'm not sure how long you want this workshop to run, but how are you feeling about like 10 minutes or so?
Great. This is the least thing I prepared, so great.
Fuck yeah, let's do it. Let's do
It's
it.
going to be a work talk rather than a workshop. But
Fucking love it.
we've talked a lot about staying productive and like what we can do in this time. And I think that like I get a lot of questions about like my schedule and like how you're asking, like how I stay productive and how I organize my time. So I thought I would just basically sort of like talk through my approach on making a schedule. We can have you guys sort of make your schedule. Oh, you guys are all ready.
Ready.
We can sort of see how this ends up. I've never actually done a workshop with this, so maybe this ends up not being beneficial, but we'll give it a go.
Let's do it.
The way I've done this, like I personally have like, this is a blessing and a curse. I like being obsessed with efficiency. You know what I mean? So like I sort of like I hate wasting time, and everything I'm doing I want it to be effective and efficient. So I obviously that lends itself to being like, oh, like let's make a schedule that like times out everything in the day. And so I think that there's a couple things that I think in my approach become beneficial, but most of them are like how you view it, not necessarily like how you make it. But I guess the thing I did is obviously you need to prioritize. So the cool thing about quarantine is that, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., it's like generally, I mean, if you're like me and have lost all your jobs, then all that time is open. So we can basically like use up that whole time. We're not confined with these restrictions or whatever. And so basically what I did was I started to make a list. So what you can do is you make a list of like the priority things that you want to achieve in this time. Now, maybe that is like you really want to be like, oh, working out is like the first priority, or like writing's a first priority, or editing is a first priority, or even just like taking time to like connect with friends is a priority. But I think like the hardest thing that we have in doing this is like, or the thing that I found most time to be problematic is that people don't actually know where their priorities are. Like, I really want to do this, but I really want to do that. Or like, I love this, but oh, there's also this thing. And I think it's really important to make a list and prioritize. If you can't make up your mind, I would say, let you know that you can change your priorities. Those can change, right? So if there's two things that you really love doing, like take 2 weeks where one of them is the first thing, and then in 2 weeks you can switch it around and do the other thing, right? But you have to sort of prioritize, because inevitably what happens with our time is things get taken over, and you have to know what things you're cutting out. You know what I mean? And so I guess my approach for me, like in this time, writing is my main priority. That's the thing that I want to do over everything else. And so I've given that the most uninterrupted time. Oh, actually, we'll get there. So I'll list all the things that we want to do. So you guys can list your top things, and I'll write mine down just so I have it in front of me. Sure. So writing is my first priority. This is like creative writing, script writing, or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Or actually, let's just write all the things we want to do, not doing priority. So like, I want to make sure I write during quarantine. That's my thing, right? I also want to make sure that I edit both video and photos. It is important to me to continue to make content. I don't want to have this time be lost on that. So like creating content is a priority for me, right? So I list that as like editing or whatever, but it's basically creating content. Whereas writing is like, I'm not writing skits to then shoot. I'm like writing a feature to do like way later. That's like my priority. So again, sorry, ignoring priority right now, but writing is not like writing for skits. That would be under content creation. My third thing that I want to get done is working out. I think that for me, exercise is a huge priority because I'm more effective at other things when I exercise. So, you know, I'm better at editing and writing. I have more focus, I have more drive, I have more motivation, more clarity when I am working out, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I think those are my only like actually look at my actual schedule since I'm sitting at my computer. Those are like the things that I try to get done. Oh, and then I guess like I do put in like downtime, social time. So I do write in social time. And so we're sort of getting to the point of like, the way I do a schedule is that I literally put everything in there. So I'm talking showering, eating, you know, social media. Like I put this stuff in here. Now, that doesn't mean that I adhere to it every single like time block, but I block it in there to have time for it. Because I think it's really important. Like I've made this schedule out, but the number of days I hit it 100% is few, you know what I mean? But what it does is that overall, it keeps me on a schedule and it keeps me productive more often than not having it. So, yeah, so I guess, let's see, what else do I have on it? That's basically it. The other things that I need time for, of course, taking showers. We still want to be clean in quarantine, right? Showers, eating. What else do I have in my schedule that's like actually in my schedule as on the whole? I think that's about it for the quarantine schedule. All right. So have you guys written down your things? I'm gonna say like pick three things that you want to get done. We'll have because we kind of have 3 blocks. We have morning, afternoon, and night. So do you guys have 3 things that you've written down that you want to get
Rox,
done?
do you want to start, or I have something?
Yeah. My first thing has been working out because I find that to be extremely difficult when I was back in my normal life, and health has been a very big priority now that I'm in my 30s. So, you know, I'm not a high intensity person, maybe even just being as easy as 30 minutes of walking a day or 30 minutes of yoga a day. Great. Just trying to do that. Yeah. And then my second thing would be cook more.
Okay, cool. Great. Love it. So you have exercise and cook. Yeah. And Anthony, what do you got?
So I've been really busy with especially the show and just everything around here, but I want to finish a series outline for a show that I've been developing, but I've just been avoiding it.
Great.
The other thing is working out, because that I've been also just since this started, even 2 weeks prior to this quarantine, I've been avoiding it as well. Mm-hmm. And I want to have some like intimate and like playtime with my son, you know, so just to fill that in there.
Of course.
Wait, Cole, how do you get yourself to work out? Like, do you do it first thing in the morning, or do you do it like
well, so we're going to get to that. So what we're going to do is we're going to prioritize these things.
Okay.
So Roxy, you need to give me what's first and what's second out of your 2 things.
My first is working out. Right.
And then Anthony, you need to list that in top 3.
I feel like a bad dad if I don't say play with son. Like the first one.
So I guess it's also consideration. No, that's fine actually. So that's fine because that let's put that first.
Yeah, play with son.
Like if you do nothing, like if something, basically the question becomes, if something completely derails your day and you have 1 hour, what are you doing in that 1 hour?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, what is the thing you would want to do out of all those things? And so, yeah, playing with your son, that makes sense to be your thing, right?
Mhm.
Great. Okay, so we have these things. So now you need to figure out when the optimum time is for these things, right? And so for me, my first thing is writing. I've noticed that I write the best in the morning. Like, I'm most effective. If I do something else and then I try to start writing at like 11 or 12 or whatever, my brain is clogged with like news and like emails I need to reply to and all sorts of crap, and I am not as efficient. I've tried writing at night, and I just like, again, I'm distracted with things. There's other things going on. It's not good for me. The best time for me to write is in the morning. So that is like, that's priority and like time. So that block is like for writing. So I think, Roxy, you need to figure out what the best time is for you to exercise. And then Anthony, what the best time is for you to play with your son. That might be in the middle of the day. Like, when is he waking up from his nap? Like, what in the schedule is the time that is most efficient for that? Because we're basically going to build our schedule around that. Everything in my schedule, it falls second in line to my morning being taken up by writing. I'll do everything else later, right? So it doesn't mean that it has to be the first thing in their day, because it might, if your son is asleep or like that's not the best time to play or whatever, then it doesn't have to be first thing. But it has first priority in picking that time, right? Do you guys have times for that?
Yeah, we do actually.
Oh, see, here's
I
my
don't know about
problem is
Roxy.
that
Okay, so I have an
it's
answer for you
just
if
like,
you don't know, Roxy. I have an answer for you
my
if you don't know.
moods are so different every day. Like, my energy levels
Moods don't matter.
Fuck.
So because like the other thing that you need to do is like for your number one priority, it's non-negotiable. Okay. So like other things can be negotiable, right? So like for me, right, like writing is generally non-negotiable. If I wake up and I don't feel like doing it, I'll sit in the chair and I'll proofread. It's about getting your ass in the seat to do the thing you want to do. Even if you don't feel like it, you're like, well, my punishment for not feeling like it is sitting in the seat and like proofreading stuff that I've written or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you might, your goal, Roxy, might be like, okay, so I have this hour, I want to do a yoga class, or I want to do a little like online workout, but I really don't feel like doing an F45 workout today. Well, your punishment is like, you're walking around the block. You're still spending that time doing something. If you don't want to do like the big intense thing, that's fine. But you've set that time aside. So like you need to use that time to do something to that effect, right? If you don't feel like it, fine. Give yourself that day. Show yourself that grace, which we were talking about before, right? But like at least walk around the block. Do the least possible to like just adhere to the schedule, right? And I would say if you don't know what time is best for you, it's first thing in the morning. Do it first thing. So it's done. Because that makes the most sense for me. And you're like, oh, well, I feel accomplished. I got a workout in. I did whatever, right? So I would, if you don't know what time is best, make it first thing. Because it only gets harder to do shit later in the day when you have other stuff going on, right? So it should be first thing.
Yeah, masterclass. I am all
This
about this.
So you make that. So you make your priority. If you don't know what time it is, you make it first thing. And I will say, you know, for the number one thing you want to do, it's non-negotiable. You're doing something to that effect. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is. Like even if cooking was your first thing, you know what I mean? Like all you're doing is like you're not ordering food. Like even if you heat up food that you've already cooked, like it's still in that vein. You know what I mean? Like you still made that food. You're still doing the thing that you're trying to do. It's not like the primo version, but you're like doing something to that effect. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to like, it's far more important to like stick to your schedule, at least like the goal of it. It's, I'll put it this way. It's not so much the goal to be your optimum level of like achieving that thing every single day, because that's unrealistic. Every morning for me to be uber inspired and write 15 pages and like come up with a whole new sequence, it's like, it's unreasonable. But what's 100% reasonable is me sitting my ass in the chair every day. That's reasonable. I can do that. You know what I mean? So I think that's an important distinction to make, because people are always like, oh, I don't have time or my motivation or whatever. Like, you know, Roxy, for you, if you want to work out, for you to do like an F45 class every single day and like get all these weight, it's like, it's unreasonable if you're like just trying to get into it. But what is reasonable is you like doing something, some form of like anything every day. That's reasonable. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to like understand what we can and cannot achieve. And so it's far more important to like do the work than it is about being inspired to do the work. Because I think it also comes, because like often I'm sure we've all tried to work out, even me, every single time I'm like, I don't want to do it. Like I'm lazy. I don't want to, I'm doing a thing. Like I'm not motivated to go work out. You go 10 minutes in, you're in the mood and you're like vibing and you feel good and you're super happy at the end of it. The same thing goes with writing. I almost never I spend all day telling myself all I want to do is write. And the hour before I need to write, all I do is I tell myself how much I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? But like, the point is, once I sit down and like 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in, I start reading, I get my mind in the world that I'm like trying to work on. I get inspired, I get motivated, I figure out something that I can do. So it's far more about, like, inspiration is far more about putting your ass in the seat than it is about pulling inspiration out of the air, you know? So I feel like that's probably, we're already over 10 minutes, but I think
no, that was a lot too. That was great, Cole.
To make have it be priority and have the like a bit of that time be non-negotiable. The one thing I touched on is like, oh, I don't adhere to my schedule. So after that, I have these blocks of things and I'll like shuffle stuff around a little bit. But what's good is I have this list of like the things I want to get done. And even if I am moving them around, I'm still like blocking off time and like, okay, now as I'm doing this thing, now I'm doing this thing. And having that schedule, even if I'm moving stuff around by an hour or like crossing a thing out for a day or two, overall, I'm far more effective and efficient throughout the day.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Cole. We want to squeeze in 2 really quick questions from our audience. If you could, we'll just keep it prompt.
Yeah.
From James Tang, what has been some effective ways you found to build your network and lead to more projects?
Being a nice, friendly person, really, you know what I mean? Like there's definitely people that I've met along my way who are very talented, but like not really friendly and nice. And like, you're not really like, other than the fact that they're cool because they're talented, there's not really like, you want to hang out with them because they're like, just not courteous or whatever. And then there's people that are like, that bust their ass and like, they only maybe not the most inherently talented, but they're great people and you love having them around. Even like, but don't get them wrong, those are not mutually exclusive. I also know people that are super cool and awesome and super talented. I'm like, those are the people I want to work with. And so when I hire people that I like being around because we're going to spend so much time together. And I think that goes the same way. So it's like, if I get hired by people that I've worked with before, it's because we like working together. So I don't think there's a magic recipe for like meeting people that will be beneficial, but like you go meet a lot of people, you are nice, you'll meet some people that like you might want to work together. You know what I mean? So I think it just boils down to like being kind of like a good person that's friendly and nice. And when you meet other talented, friendly, and nice people, obviously you're going to want to hang out and work together. That's kind of my thought.
Vibes. And then our last question is from Tessa Mariano. Hi, Cole. What's something you're looking forward to doing in your career? Also looking forward to you doing a curly hair tutorial. As a curly haired Asian myself, would love to know what you do. Also love you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for those lovely comments. Who wrote that? What was her name?
Tessa Mariano.
That is awesome. Well, I just actually filmed a hair tutorial like yesterday and the day before. So this is actually my washed hair from the hair tutorial. So that is coming. I do talk about a lot about products. I will be editing that in my editing blocks over the next couple of days. Also, I generally take weekends off, so I'm not editing tomorrow. I'm chilling, and after this, I'm chilling for the rest of the day. Though I did say I'm gonna make my mom a video for Mother's Day, so I hope she's not watching.
That's news that makes us go off.
So I will be editing that, but my work, cool. I generally try to take the weekends off, but that's only recently, but that's kind of the way I've structured my thing. So I will be editing the hair tutorial next week. And what I'm excited to do? Is that the question? My career?
Yeah, it's just like, what are you looking forward to doing in your career, like in the future?
Yeah, I mean, as we alluded to in the schedule creation workshop, writing a feature film, like directing a feature film is like the main goal on the list. It sort of always has been. So that's the thing that I'm focusing on, and that's the thing I'm looking forward to doing.
Hell yeah, manifest. All right, so awesome. Anthony, are you ready for final thoughts?
I am so ready. Final thoughts, bumper, hit it.
Bumper hit.
Yeah, there we go. Final thoughts.
All right. Okay, so final thoughts today. I will start, Rox. Is that cool?
Of course.
So a few words came into mind. I feel like Cole, you've really inspired us to take simple steps in creating the person that you want to be and to reaching your goals. So at the end of the day, it's simple steps to work out that muscle in your mind, work out that muscle in just sitting down and writing. And if it gets too hard for you, that's also okay. You know, you can wait on for another day. So that's what I have for my final thoughts. Roxy, you go ahead.
There's something that Cole said that really struck me, and it was the term non-negotiable, because I think that, like, you know, Lady Gaga says something, there's discipline and passion, which is something that I feel that connected so resoundly with what Cole has taught us today. And it's just like being able to just being inspired. Like, you don't wait for fucking inspiration. Like, you just gotta fucking do the work. It's sort of like doing morning pages with The Artist's Way with Julia Cameron. It's just doing it every single day, even if you don't feel like you have anything to say. The act of doing it will stimulate something. So that's what I really took away from this. It has inspired me, even though I wasn't seeking inspiration, but it has hit me anyways. So Cole, thank you so much for your masterclass today. Do you have any last words, Cole, words of wisdom for emerging artists on the rise that are watching this?
Yeah, I think words of wisdom for emerging artists. I think the thing that I had mentioned that I do want to just be poignant on is the idea of, like, really, like, you have to push yourself. Like, how I can be very firm and be like, hey, the morning thing, your priority, non-negotiable. You get up and you do it, right? Like, the idea that, like, you have to push yourself that hard is important, because there's other people that are pushing themselves that hard. I'm pushing myself that hard. So it's like, if you want to find your way up, like, you have to work hard, you know. But it also is very, very important to, like, allow yourself to show yourself to show yourself grace, right? And so it's like, with this number one thing, it's like we might lean more often to be like, well, it's not every morning, like, give myself grace on writing, because I told myself, I determined as we set out, that's priority. So, like, maybe I shouldn't be, like, going easy on myself for the number one thing that I made very clear in my life that I want to achieve. I'll show myself grace on other things. Like, if working out is number two for me, like, I'll show myself more grace on that than I will on the first one. So it's really important to, like, find that personal balance, to, like, really push hard to, like, achieve the thing you want to achieve, but also know when and where you can pull back, because it is important. Like, you'll burn yourself to the ground if you're, like, relentless nonstop in pursuing this, and you probably won't be having that much fun, and you won't be that much fun to be around, because ultimately, like, we're striving for happiness. We all want to achieve things that make us happy, but, like, if the process is ruining your happiness and ruining yourself along the way, it maybe we need an adjustment, right? But there is moments where you have to push super hard, and then we have to ease up, and, like, the world of success encompasses both of those things. That's what I would say.
Awesome. Great words from Cole. Thank you so much. This is a question that we have to ask from Quarantine Video Mate. But if you had to choose between Barry or Marley Indigo, who would you go for?
Oh, I mean, I go with the shirt, man.
Ah, yeah! There you go. That's Barry.
That shirt. The headband was, like, pretty appealing.
We will all go for Barry's coconuts for sure.
Yes.
Thirsty for Barry's coconuts. Ew!
Okay, well, thank you so much, Cole. That's it for now. Viewers, make sure you tune in every Saturday of this month on Facebook Live and or YouTube at 2 p.m. Pacific time, which means our next episode is next Saturday on the 16th. So don't miss out. We'll be making our guest announcement during that week.
And we know we went a little bit over today, but forgive us. We're a freaking new show. Okay, this is our pilot, and Cole is amazing, and all that knowledge was just, like, so abundant and nourishing. So please forgive us for today, but we know that you love us. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to follow us on Facebook at So What Now Show, and on Instagram on So What Now Show, So What Now _show. And this is Roxy Moron signing off.
And this is non-dad bod daddy bod waving goodbye to you. And Cole.
Okay. Thank you so much, Cole.
Goodbye.
We love you. Thank you.
This was awesome. Great to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Well, good in it.